Hey folks, it's Eugene, Dungeon Master for the Longstrange Cantrip by the campaign, here to recap our very first session of the March of Progress campaign. You can catch us streaming the campaign live on our Twitch channel every other Friday, that's Friday evening Pacific time, at twitch.tv/longstrangecantrip, which you'll find linked below. That has our up-to-date schedule, and we'd love for you to come join us and watch along. We try to keep it interactive and fun and collaborative, so please join and follow on Twitch. Here on our YouTube channel, you'll be able to find the campaign VODs that we post after the episodes, as well as highlights, Dungeon Master notes for each session, and also recaps such as this one. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, please subscribe to the channel and like this video. Speaking of that recap, I should probably start. So here goes. Oh, before I do though, I should mention a caveat. So the recap that I'll be giving here is my version, the Dungeon Master's version, interpretation of what happened. I don't mean to get all Rashomon about this, but in the events of the session, many things happened, some of which I will elide here and some of which I will emphasize, and that builds together a narrative. But that narrative can be very different from the perspective of one of the players. It can be different from the perspective of you, the viewer, and I don't mean to imply at all that this is the canonical or correct version. It's just my version, and I'm just the one who bothered to make a video about it. If you like the campaign and you want to do the same, please feel free to make your own. I would love that. But I fully expect that there will be events that happen during the session and every other one that I recap that I completely ignore here because it didn't jump out at me as particularly significant, and then they come back and become earth-shattering, completely consequential changes that affect the course of the entire campaign. Who knows? I want to be open to that, and I would love for that to happen. So, with that caveat out of the way, here goes. We began our journey with a peek into a place beyond space and time, the Celestial Library, where Keeper Lefebvre greeted a new recruit to the library. It turns out that the Cannon Mother is seeking a new tale to weave into the canon tapestry. And based on her rather peculiar requirements, including the need for themes of class struggle, a walrus person to be part of the narrative, and to have a breathtaking narrative arc that doesn't have a set ending, Keeper Lefebvre suggested a particular tome, the March of Progress, and began to read therefrom to refresh his recollection and elucidate the new recruit. So the tale began in earnest with Ume, a sub-lieutenant of the Risuri Naval Service's Commissary Corps, and their superior, Egberticus, a rear admiral in the Corps, hard at work on a feast commissioned for the launch of the RNS Coltung, a revolutionary steam-powered warship that would usher in an era of naval and, more importantly, technological parity between Risur and their longtime rival, the nation of Danor to the north. Now, Egberticus had risen to his rank through heroism and determination throughout the Yarosal Wars, transcending the typically low standing of his fellow Bari tribesmen and becoming the pride of all walrus folk. Though, if you ask him, it was at least partly due to the intercession of the one true god, Triegenes, due to Egberticus's unyielding faith in the Pentonian Church, which Triegenes founded. As for Ume, they were just happy to hitch their star to Egberticus's wagon, seeking fortune and escape from the squalid living conditions of the kobold tribesmen in Risur's foothills. But Ume may be selling themselves short as well in that respect, because their keen eyes and their pluck have helped both Egberticus and Ume out of many a jam in the past. But their fighting days are now behind them, it seems, and Egberticus and Ume's current focus is on concocting the most sumptuous spread imaginable worthy of the royal attendees that would be at the event today, the launch of the Coal Tongue. We next checked in with 2 employees of RESER's Bureau of Modern Contraptions and Utilities, a subdivision of the Ministry of Learning and Arcana. In their Bosamstrand warehouse headquarters, which was typically empty so early in the day, the room was aglow with firelight as they prepared their things before heading off to serve as the Bureau's delegates to the launch of the Coal Tongue. As one of the bureaus that was interested in the scientific and technological advancement of RESER, it was natural that someone should attend, and who better than the 2 star employees, Ren Nadurin and Ekthos. Now, both were actually ambivalent about the event, it turned out, albeit for different reasons. Ren, because his druidic sky seer roots gave him a deep skepticism of technology in general, and war machines in particular. And Ekthos was skeptical because he just isn't one for all the governmental pomp and circumstance attendant to these types of events. Ekthos is, by the way, a tiefling from Danor who grew up with a love of all things mechanical. For lack of a better term, Ekthos does machines, like Donatello, particularly simulacra of little animals and other creatures, which will become important later. Now, before they left the Bureau for their assignment, Ekthos naturally donned his mech suit, which he dubbed the Ekthosskeleton, and Ren shared a vision that he had last night, born by his exploration of the evening sky. On their way out, they were met by the Bureau's lead, Lorna Elk, who asked, or rather demanded, that they support the Royal Homeland Constabulary's efforts at the launch of the RNS Coal Tongue. Something about Lorna serving on the event's central planning committee and wanting to curry favor and make a good impression on the constabulary's assistant chief inspector, Stover Delft, a relatively powerful man about town. Begrudgingly, the duo of Ekthos and Ren agreed, though it was unclear they had any choice given Laura's pushy demeanor and her rank, and they set off for Royal Square, where the event was taking place. It wasn't long before they found Assistant Chief Delft standing with 2 of his subordinates, Brachus of Natarax, a Minotaur, and Delft's next in command, and besides, the nominal heir to the Natarax chiefdom, who was scowling under heavy-looking armor, looking throughout the square to make an optical assessment of any threats. And then Dipnip Reculok, a particularly forlorn deva with actuarial prowess and light psionic talents, who was doing his best to seem mildly interested. Not making much time for pleasantries, the always gruff Delft set Ekthos, Ren, Brachus, and Dipnip to the task of securing the event before the amassing crowds were given entry to the dignitaries' arrival area. Their approach to the issue was multifaceted. Brachus quickly set to the task of yelling at the closest foreign-looking person he saw, an unfortunate reflection of the prevailing law enforcement practices of RESER and maybe other places. He did manage to intimidate this individual enough to effectively deputize him, enlisting some much-needed help in this task. Now, true to his nature, Dipnip started on the very inefficient effort of talking to literally every single person of the 1,000 or so event attendees to try to see if they could be a threat. Ren, in turn, seemed to be rather obsessed with taking the natural path, attempting to enlist the help of all manner of beasts, but alas, and perhaps predictably, to no avail. But almost despite himself, Ren's prophetic visions of the night before led him to an individual who sought to disrupt the event, and then Dipnip managed to apprehend that individual by making them levitate off the ground, Wile E. Coyote style. And they tried to propel themselves forward, but Brachus caught up, apprehended them, and that conspirator inadvertently admitted that there was another in their midst, whom Ekthos identified by using his robotic weasel. Pretty clever. Unfortunately, in the process of tracking down the would-be perpetrator, the weasel got underfoot of quite a few people, causing them to lose their balance and topple over, and basically set off a domino reaction that ended with Ecberticus and Ume's magnificent cake, expertly shaped to exactly replicate the coal tongue itself, complete with smokestacks and everything, upturned on the ground, along with a fair amount of other viennoiserie and pastries. Ecberticus and Ume were irate, seeking justice for their carefully crafted pastries. This impulse was temporarily put on hold, however, when Harkover Lee, the famed mage and chief advisor to King Eodan of Rhysr, thanked the party for their quick work and for the cake sacrifice, and imposed on them another request to ensure the continued success of the event by keeping the various guests and their massive, overblown egos comfortable, satiated, and managed such that nothing went awry. Ever the faithful servants of Rhysr, Ecberticus and Ume obliged, as did the rest. They spent some time milling about the event, keeping a close eye on the guests while becoming passingly acquainted with some important individuals. Soon thereafter, the king's sister, Duchess Ethelyn, arrived, and Harkover asked that she, in particular, be monitored and corralled, but subtly. The Duchess introduced herself to Brachus, who held himself forth as part of the event's staff, and she asked, therefore, for a place to escape from the exhausting social milieu. Brachus duly obliged. Soon thereafter, the king himself arrived, to much literal and figurative fanfare, cracked a bottle of Ballora's finest bubbly upon the prow of the ship, and proceeded to board the Coal Tongue, as did our 6 heroes. So, that's it. That was session 1, at least as far as I'm concerned. I thought it went rather well, but you can catch my DM notes here later this week. You can, of course, catch the VOD if you haven't seen that here, and then watch the new ones every other week as we stream live on Twitch. And if you want to see more videos like my DM notes, our highlights, and these recaps, and of course the sessions themselves, please like this video, subscribe to this channel, and until next time, this is Eugene. May your hits be critical and your misses few.